73 days after Lidia's first teaser at EVO Japan, 46 days after her first gameplay trailer, we finally have concrete details. IGN was given early access. Unfortunately, I wasn't. And a Polish content creator was actually also given early access to test out Lidia's moves, go through a move list, do some gameplay. It's pretty exciting stuff. So I want to go through some of the footage. I actually recommend checking out that IGN guide. It's really, really well made. Mitchell Saltzman actually did a really good, like, semi-technical, beginner-friendly, like, starter guide to Lidia. It's actually really, really good. I recommend watching it in its entirety. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some of the things that he briefly touches on, but could use more detail. I went through the extended move list for Lidia that was released by Jacob D. This is the Polish content creator that was invited by Bandai Namco to cover Lidia's full move list and everything like that. So please check out his channel for more details. And he also released a bunch of 40 minutes of gameplay and some ultra hard AI gameplay. So we went through some of it. We haven't gone through all of it. I just want to go through and talk about Lidia. But no, there's no release date, okay? Everybody's been asking me, do you know the release date? Do you know the release date? It's been forever. I unfortunately don't. And for me, just real quick, this wasn't too surprising. You know, if you follow Tekken 7's release, right? Like, this is the Tekken 7 release trailer. You know, Heihachi, Kazumi, Akuma, Defy Your Destiny. Look at what they said. This is how they teased the release date of Tekken 7. Early 2017 for the console release. Tekken 7 came out in June 2017. So it's not unusual for Bandai Namco to stretch their estimates of release dates. And it's technically, at time of recording, it's July. It's July. We're still in the summer. Lidia said, they said summer sometime. We're still in the window. That said, it is about 7 to 9 days, depending when you watch this, before EVO Vegas will end. And my guess is if Lidia doesn't come out right before, like if it doesn't come out right before EVO and is hopefully, like, you know, restricted from the actual competition, they'll probably release it right after. They'll probably do some announcements of the new DLC and then say, like, Lidia out tomorrow. The Namco loves doing that, okay? So I'm going to leave on this Lidia gameplay. We can just start with the ultra hard AI, right? Again, credits to Jacob D for this footage. Take a look at the notes here, right? So one of the first controversial things right away is that her forward 2, big advancing mid punch. Let me just pull that up real quick. This is a hot button issue, okay? Lidia's forward 2 move that famously goes like pretty far across the screen. It's no Reina forward 2, right? But it goes really far, safe mid. Now it's +5. But it's important to note now that she's forced to go into the HOR Stance, okay? So the move is really good, no doubt, right? But it's +15 on hit. So there's no guaranteed follow-up normally. She just gets this really strong stance mix-up, right? So 16 frame mid is going to be uninterruptible. She has the power crush, the homing high, so moving isn't going to really be an option. You have to hard duck this. She has the counter hit launching low if you do like a jab string. I don't know if it's going to counter hit like a full-on jab. And then she has the jumping mid homing option, and then the axe kick for plus frames if you decide to just block, right? The 2 that they're showing here goes into HVN Stance, right? So if she hits the 2, it plays this on-screen attack animation here. This one. Attack throw goes into heat, and then she can go into HVN Stance, or she can cancel it by holding back. That's another thing about the HVN Stance, you can always hold back. So this move, good, but because it's only +5 on block, none of these options are like guaranteed, right? It's not like a neutral situation. She has to either commit to the homing high, commit to the mid, or go to the low. Now, she does have the jump back option. That's probably going to be the safe option if forward 2 is on block. But then that +5 isn't super relevant, right? So it was really concerning when I saw that it was that strong, but it's important to note that she can jump back. Yeah, Chatter mentioned +5 mid, 16 frames is the fastest move. Doesn't that mean you have 11 frames to retaliate? That would be true if not for the homing armor high, right? So your jab will be absorbed. The question is, after you jab the armor move, can we duck it? Haven't seen any footage to show yet, so we don't know. The answer is we don't know. We don't know how good this is going to be unless she's in heat. We do know how good it's going to be in heat. If you saw the Lidia gameplay trailer, you'll recall that she did a reversal break. If you don't know what a reversal break is, it's what it sounds like. It's a move that will blow through armor and blow through parries. And Lidia does that here against Reyna. Right here. That's her forward 2. Caveat is she's already in heat, right? So this sequence is a good indication of how Lidia is supposed to play. Heat forward 2 breaks through the armor, and because it's plus 17, she's guaranteed the Horse 2, which is this attack animation. And then she goes into Heaven Stance. We're going to talk about Heaven Stance later, but I thought this was going to be a really overpowered stance. Remains to be decided because of a few properties. Anyways, these are all of her options out of Horse Stance, and as you can see, forward 2 doesn't really guarantee a lot unless you hit it. And then if you hit it, it's going to be a forced mix-up, or she does Horse 4 to extend the mix-up into Wolf Stance with the axe kick. And it's important to note, even in the trailer, the author or the creator notes that the axe kick is interruptible. So if Lidia decides to do forward 2 into Horse 4, you can interrupt with a down forward 1 or other options depending on what your character has. So that's important to note. Small thing to correct here. He says forward 1. This is actually running 1 if you look at the move list. It's not forward 1. It's plus 6 on block, and in the video of the gameplay here, you can actually see that if forward 1 hits in the air, it's an aerial tailspin. So if the video will load, you'll see that if you anti-air somebody with like there, look at the Lidia on the right. She opens the round with a bow and then does a hop kick. But the running one causes an aerial tornado. So that's an important detail. Might be useful in combos. We don't know if it's going to be a counter hit tornado. Again, more to be found. So the key horse transitions are going to be forward 2 and heat forward 2 for sure. And then the last one is red tape, down back 3. So he talks about it here when he's talking about the key moves somewhere. Looking at the little preview here. But with red tape, that used to be just a point blank like hell sweep type move. Like you just run up and knock them down, right? Now they've changed the functionality of this move. What they want this move to do instead, if they're going to show me, Punishers, no? All right. Well, if you watch this video, you'll see where they talk about red tape. The interesting thing to note is that it's no longer intended to hit at point blank range, right? It used to be that the move was kind of useless if you did it. Oh, it's in the beginning. Thank you. It used to be that the move was pretty useless if you hit it like at the tip. But now when you hit when you hit down back 3, it goes into Horse Stance no matter what. And with the frame advantage, regardless of the distance you hit it from, there. So this is the counter hit effect. It gives a knockdown attack throw, but on hit, it's plus 7. So she gets access to now a frame trapping Horse 2. It will lose to Power Crush, Rage Art, and Parries. But the frame situation, it's designed to continue offense. So this low has completely changed in usage, right? The fact that it's homing is extremely useful in a game like Tekken 8 where sidesteps are improved. And those are going to be your main transitions to Horse Stance. Now, for the Cat Stance, he talks about this mainly with the 1-2-2 and the down forward 2. I'll jump to that here. Down forward 2 into Cat Stance. Looking at the notes here again, the frames are a lot better on these Cat transitions. So, plus 8 on hit off of 1-2-2 or 10-frame punish. And then her 2 while standing moves give her huge frames, right? So the plus 8 already means that some moves become completely uninterruptible, right? No rage arts. So Cat 3 can't rage art if she goes into stance off of these punishes. You can parry it because most parries are frame 5, but that is a pretty high commitment option when she could just jump to the next stance and mix you up again, right? She can also delay her attacks from what I've seen. So a parry has some... It's a high commitment option if you're going to defend with that. Now, if she hits while standing 1-2, now she's plus 11. So she can actually completely blow through parries on top of that. What makes the Cat Stance scary, I think, is because these frames are so high, these like counter hit strings become a real threat. So her counter hit 2-3-1 is a full natural combo on counter hit. That's what NCC stands for. And Cat 4 is a counter hit launching low. So this stance is really, really scary to mash into. And that's kind of the function of Tekken stances in general. If the opponent hits a valid transition into it, you should be worried about mashing into it. But this stance in particular has a lot of reward. And of course, even though the low isn't threatening on its own, she can transition into Wolf Stance to continue the pressure. Or Heaven Stance when she's in heat. You'll notice that 1-2-2 is launch punishable. I think that the author did a great job of covering that. Even though it says -8 on block, because of the stance transition, you're forced, you can't block. And so this punish is real. Really nice technical detail there. One thing that wasn't mentioned here, which is really cool, is down forward 2 on counter hit gives a guaranteed follow-up. So if you look at this gameplay footage here, counter hit down forward 2, guaranteed cat 3, right? You can see the health bar stays red, so it's a true combo. Look at this at full speed. It looks like this is going to be counter hit confirmable. If you're throwing out the down forward 2, you probably have time to react and hit cat 3 as the Lidia player. So this is that's pretty scary stuff. It used to, in Tekken 7, knock down on counter hit. So giving a heat engage here, I think is debatably stronger, leaving them standing so you can mix them up again. You can continue pressure. It stands to be seen. It's a different game. The old logic may not apply. Something they didn't mention, again, is her full crouch stance. So they obviously listed her 4 key stances, which I list down here. Cat stance, horse stance, striking wolf, heaven and earth. But I think her full crouch stance has a lot of merit. He's going to talk about like Lidia's punishers, and this is a nice little segue for that. But first, he talks about full crouch down forward 3. So you'll notice at the tip, it doesn't do much, but up close, it's a knockdown low, right? So the range is actually pretty bad for the knockdown, but way up close, this will be a knockdown. So there's a low threat, and it is a stagger launch punishable low. So it's not something she can just really throw out, but it is a threat if she's ducking in your face, right? So this is well complemented by her other options. So for one, she can do this QCF4 out of crouch because it's a QCF input. So she has a homing option if you try to step her. But where it gets really nasty is just the basic while standing options she has that's like punishment. This is the red tape section, by the way, the down back 3, around 5 minutes if you want to check that out. But what I wanted to point out is her punishes. So if we slide over to here, here we go. He talks about 1-2-2 and all these punishes. These are the standing ones. Let's look at the crouching ones, okay? So from crouch, after these launchers, here we go. So full crouch down forward 2 is a 12 frame heat engaging mid, unsafe, thankfully, but that's a really fast option, right? A fast option. So if she runs up and crouches in your face and you try to react visually, she can do something really quick. While standing 1-4, unsafe knockdown mid, does wall splat. Doesn't seem that scary on its own, right? But you'll have to remember that you don't really want to take that while standing 1-2 situation, right? As far as we know, right? As far as we know. It does say 0 on block, so I'm guessing that they don't get a true punish on you, right? But the fact that you might want to duck the high and then she can do the mid, or you stay stand blocking for the mid and she does the high, it's a little mini mind game that isn't the end of the world, but gives her some more mental stack potential. What is really scary is this while standing 4, so noted as while rising because it's in the move list, but this is a knockdown mid that gives a follow-up and is a counter hit launcher. So if you mash because she's crouching in your face, you don't want to deal with the mix-up, this is what can happen. And she can counter hit launch you, and it leads to some nasty sequences like that just happened on screen. Look at the Lidia on the right. Down jab to stop pressure, and then just mash while standing 3, and it beats anything that's too slow, right? Down jab is +6 on hit, so you might just have to block after. Down jab becomes really, really strong for her. So hopefully this move is significantly unsafe to kind of de-incentivize it, but her full crouch is going to be pretty obnoxious, I think. All right. Let's leave the gameplay on. I have some other move notes, okay? So down 2 has that new counter hit property that we see in the beginning here. I know I said let's leave the gameplay on, but visual cues I think are useful. So here, forward 2, you can see Political Storm. Down 2 counter hit. Guaranteed knockdown, so she probably gets a follow-up. Not shown here. This down 3-1-2 string, all guaranteed on counter hit. So take a look here. At the start of the move list, they like to show like key moves. It's an interesting new approach to Tekken to kind of help people sort through the move list, and I kind of like that. So one of the one of the key moves that they show here. Let me double speed this and find it, because we could be here all day otherwise. Again, Jacob D, Polish content creator, went through the whole move list for us, put it on YouTube. Definitely check it out to get the full details on what Lidia can do. Forward 3 combo starter. Thank you for the recommended combo. Here we go. Effective on opponents using standing block. Right? So this low poke isn't super scary, and it is a low high string, but it's all guaranteed on counter hit, right? 38 damage knockdown, probably wall splats on counter hit. Look at the animation one more time. Down 3-1-2. All on counter hit. What remains to be seen, and what I'm really curious about, is how plus is it if you just do the counter hit down 3? +5, right? So counter hit down 3 alone being +5 is kind of obnoxious, right? Her jab should track your sidesteps after that. That's a fascinating change for Lidia. QCF4 we talked about is that new homing move, the jumping kick, and it's +10 on hit, so you get a guaranteed 1-2-2. Back 4 on counter hit is another homing move that knocks down. And then I already said this, available from crouch. Cool. Let's look at some other cool situations that show up in the gameplay. So if you hit running 1, it's not forward 1 like it says in the video, you get a guaranteed follow-up off of Heaven 1. So this is in heat only. Gives this spike follow-up. So she could probably get a forward 3. She could get like the stomp punch. Could be any of these. They didn't demonstrate it because they're obviously new to the character. Up forward 4, her hop kick used to have a different block animation. So if you blocked the hop kick before, she just did a single kick. It was kind of hard to punish in Tekken 7. But now, the full hop kick animation plays on block, and she goes into stance. So you have a lot of time to punish it. That's a nice quality of life change for the character. Up forward 1+2 grab. You'll notice that it has like a wall splat animation. It used to give her a combo, but now she low slumps too fast for a follow-up. So she just gets a mix-up. That's a nice change again. The game is already pretty aggressive. If she had a lot of these options, it would feel pretty nasty. Now, a really cool thing to note, because she has all these huge hitboxes, forward 2, running 1, you'll notice that her heat smash is tiny. Look at the Lidia on the right. She runs up and heat smashes. Small sidestep right completely evaded it. So her heat smash has to be kind of precise. I was really appalled at how tiny this was. Like, that's kind of... Isn't that alarmingly small at how small that is? Especially when you compare it to most of the heat smashes like Dragunov's or Jin's. The fact that this, at this range, is so tiny. I thought she blocked it. But she did sidestep heat burst and dodged it. So, little surprising change. Now, there's a ton of questions I have about this character still. So, we saw red tape. By the way, the chatter who told me red tape is at the beginning. That was a good lie. Red tape's right here. So is this a stagger low, right? So you'll notice that there's a clean hit, which gives this little knockdown animation. And again, she's +7. So there's a trade here with the homing high with the jab. Sorry, the homing high trades with the jab. Not eloquently said by me. Does this stagger low? If you block this low, are you able to launch her? Because that seems like a really nasty mix-up. It's okay, you don't have to be sorry. I was just joking. It's a really nasty mix-up afterwards, right? So it gives her a lot of control. If she can just go into stance, you respect it, and then she goes into the next stance, especially with Heaven Stance on the table, right? Is down back 2, or down 2, sorry, this early low, is that counter hit effect? Like, what does it guarantee? Because depending how strong the follow-up is, that low might be really, really good. Something I think not covered in the guide is how good is sidestep 4, right? So if you don't know what sidestep 4 is, I'll try to find it in a reasonable amount of time. But Lidia has all these huge hitboxes. She's coming at you with all these stance cancels, all these different moves. If she's evasive on top of that, because when you fight a character that has insane offense, usually the balancing factor, like I think of like Raven or Hwoarang, right? The balancing factor of those characters is they're hard. Like, if you hit them, they can't, like, panic button their way out, right? If Lidia has a good sidestep 4, this move here, right? You see it evades high. In Tekken 7, it evaded highs. It's part of a sidestep already, so it's extra evasive, right? And it's +16 on hit, right? So probably nothing guaranteed. It might be a guardable +16. But is she going to have good evasive moves, right? That's going to really change the ability to contain her offense. And on top of that, How good is her backdash and sidestep? Like, all of these matter. So, thank you to the chat. Red tape is launch punishable, as noted at 537. The question on top of is it launch punishable is it a stagger blocking low? Because even if it's launch punishable, if she's still able to go into the stance and mix you up, depending on your the situation and the reaction speed, that will be really obnoxious, I think, for beginner players and intermediate players. I think only the pros will be able to consistently punish that. So my hope is that she'll actually stagger when you block her like you're blocking a snake edge, so that it's more accessible for people to defend against her. If it's like -15 and she goes into stance, yeah, that would be really, really nasty. We answered this question actually by looking at this. Counter hit down 3 is +5, and it's a natural combo and counter hit. That's disgusting. 3-2 is now I-15. This is her standing punish. It's pretty high reward. It used to be 17 frames, so they improved her already really strong punishment. Fascinating change to me. Let's talk about the Heaven Stance. So, Heaven Stance is a strong parry option. So, he talks about it in the end of the video in loose detail, and he covers some situations, but I'm really curious about the details behind the Heaven Stance. So, after he goes through a few combos, we see the Heaven Stance here. All right. So, first thing to note right away is look at how much meter gets blown through, right? So pay attention to the player 1 Lidia's meter. She does heat burst, so she has 2/3. And out of raw HOR Stance, it blows through another third of the meter. So if you heat burst, you feasibly look like you only get 1 Heaven Stance mix up, right? That's a significant amount of meter burnt. And because look at this, the parry, it was different in this situation. So I'm not sure how the meter spend works. Here, the Heaven Stance blew all the meter, but the parry restored some of it. So how does that work? She does gain these little charges that persist through the rounds, which is new to, well, this mechanic of installs is new to Tekken in general, but the fact that she keeps it between rounds is also new. There. So here, out of Cat Stance, look at the meter. So heat burst is 2/3, and then it blows all of it, right? She loses less heat going into stance with more install tokens. Oh, so later in the set, she's able to stack it more easily. Oh, that's nasty. So it looks like you're incentivized to just go into stance as much as possible. Thanks for the detail. The more you go into stance earlier, the more you can use the stance later. Now, it's a strong parry, meaning it beats elbows, headbutts, weapons, knees, shoulder bashes, etc. Does it beat lows? You know, Leroy, his Hermit Stance beats lows, but there's no note of that in the move list. I have a strong suspicion that Heaven 1+2, the unblockable high, does beat armor. It wouldn't make much sense otherwise if it didn't, right? So let's go into Heaven Stance. Not key charge, buddy. Let's go into Heaven Stance. Tons of stances in the move list. I'm going to actually talk about the stance transitions later. But this is an interesting detail. So she has the Power Crush mid. She has this fast mid. And then she doesn't have a low. Instead, she has this unblockable high. So they obviously want you to duck the high and risk taking the mid. But if you can Power Crush through it, that defeats the purpose, right? There is game footage of the her Power Crush 1 getting Power Crushed by the opponent. So the unblockable has to beat Power Crushes, otherwise it doesn't make much sense. If you get Heaven parried, can you jab or down jab, right? So they showed Reyna in the trailer, right here, look at this. So they show Reyna in the trailer gets parried by Heaven, right? And then Reyna does a down forward 1, right? So you're still actionable. You can still attack. How fast can you attack? Can you down jab? Can you down 4? Does the down 4 beat the Power Crush in time? Right? If generic down 4, 12 frames, can hit her Power Crush, then she loses all of her options, right? Or does the other mid come out fast enough? We need the extra details to know how strong it's going to be. It's too hard to draw a conclusion just off what we have here. What is a little detail not mentioned is the Heaven parry window appears kind of small, right? Do you see what just happened there? Look at the Lidia on the right. She does Heat Smash into Heaven and waits. And then gets hop kicked. So it's a strong parry, right? So there's a few questions at play here. Aerial moves are supposed to beat parries, but does this strong parry handle that? They've clarified it in the past. I'm fuzzy on the details, so maybe someone can correct me in the comments if we know for sure. I know that if you look at the 1.5 patch notes for Tekken, they tried to clarify this, but there's still a lot of confusion because the mechanics are changing so much. So if we look at strong parry, this is an image I can't control find. That's cool. Strong attack reversal, cannot counter throws, maximum hold moves. They're ineffective against a reversal break. So it doesn't say anything. Oh yeah, airborne attacks. Okay, so her HVN Stance should be able to beat airborne attacks. So what that tells me about this clip, is the parry expired. It wasn't an aerial move beating it. Okay, so crucial details. Lots of questions. Let's talk about her stances briefly. So this will probably be more useful when you actually get your hands on the character, so feel free to screenshot it, timestamp it, etc. Cat stance. Tons of entries, usually on hit, right? So she hits a move, or on hit or on block, and she goes into stance. She can do it manually with back 3+4, but her punishers like to go into it. 3+4 goes into it, down forward 2 goes into it. One of her parries goes into it, which is pretty cool. Hop kick and her while standing punishment, right? HOR Stance actually doesn't have that many changes, right? Forward 3+4, or transitions. Forward 3+4 is manual. HOR Stance. Down back 3, obviously, and then her forward 2. Important to note is that running 2 gives her a blue spark. Forward 2. A little change there. Striking Wolf Stance, I just call it Wolf Stance, is a level 2 stance. That's how I like to call it. So it's not really accessible from neutral, right? So if you run up to somebody, you can cat stance them. If you run up to somebody, you can horse stance them. You can't run up to somebody and do wolf stance. You have to do it from another stance. So from horse and hitting forward, or horse 1, horse 4, or cat and hitting forward, or cat 4, cat 1+2. The only neutral access to it is QCF 1+2, 2. So if you watch this 40-minute gameplay, you'll see they use that move a lot. Actually, not the 40-minute gameplay. It's in the... oh, wow, I really pulled up way too many of these. It's in the 5-minute ultra-hard AI gameplay. You'll see that they use the QCF 1+2 a lot, over and over again, right? So this is kind of a fun one to watch because they are more... The AI is obviously more familiar with the move list, so they use different moves in more situations. They link things. There's that down forward 2 counter hit link. Yeah, you see more moves out of the ultra hard AI. So again, I'll link this all below. But Striking Wolf is like a level 2 stance, not supposed to be readily accessible. And I think part of the reason of that is the moves are higher reward, right? So they want to restrict access to it. That's kind of the theory of Tekken 8 stances, is that higher reward should be locked behind a stance. All right, now we talked briefly about HVN Stance. Let's talk about the concrete details. So you can only use it in heat. You can hold back to cancel. The medals persist through rounds. I want to note this now because we just got extra info. Thank you to that very informative. I believe he was a pink name. He could have been an orange name as well. More medals equals less heat consumption with HVN Stance, which is really cool. So you can tap up from any of the above stances to go into HVN Stance. You can go forward. Running 1 goes into HVN. 1+2 is a reversal break that goes into HVN. Her heat smash does as well, as we saw earlier. Horse 2, it plays that attack animation. You see it a few times in the starter guide. That built-in attack throw animation, that goes into HVN Stance. Happens in the beginning here somewhere. I probably missed it, but and then Wolf 1, the Power Crush armor. Oh wait, no, Wolf 1 is not the Power Crush armor. Wolf 1 is one of the chargeable moves, I believe. That one also goes into HVN Stance. And all of them, again, you can hold back to cancel. That is pretty useful if you want to save your heat. So I think that's this is that. This is Horse 2. See that on screen one more time. Horse 2 plays this animation, goes into heat, and with 2 medals, you can see that HVN Stance only burns 1/3 of the meter, but the unblockable doesn't. It does not clear how much the unblockable uses. Right. Anyways. Cool. So we'll have to explore the details of that, and I'm sure in the Tekken talk that's coming out later tonight, we will see more details. I'll make a video on that as well. She has a bunch of these parries. Again, HVN is a strong parry, but these are her like built-in parries. So these are called Sabakis by the Tekken community, if you don't know. A Sabaki is an attack with a built-in parry, right? So I'm going to call this a high Sabaki. This is a real punch parry. Down back 3+4 is a built-in low Sabaki, and then the Heaven Stance again, strong parry. So that's all we really know about Lidia at this time. In about 5 hours, maybe 4.5 hours from the time of recording, you'll definitely have already seen it by the time this video comes out. We'll know way more about Lidia. But as far as we know, she looks really obnoxious. If you look at this gameplay footage where she's canceling stance into stance into stance, it looks really fast. It looks really obnoxious. I don't know how strong she's going to be. I do know that it's going to be very tempting to be passive against her, right? Like, what lows is she really threatening you with? Is she willing to do it over and over again? I don't know if I'm going to be good at a character like this. I think that she's supposed to threaten many different things. There's supposed to be some randomness, some overwhelming. There's an overwhelming component. You're supposed to be in the driver's seat. People who know me for my Tekken know that I play more of a defensive movement style. I like counter hits a lot more than I like straight aggression. So as much as I like Lidia's design, I don't know if she's going to be the character for me. But my hope is to try her out when she does release. If she's Evo legal, that will be a nightmare. But it remains to be seen. So hopefully you enjoyed that slightly longer breakdown. Hopefully it educated you on some things that weren't in the guide. Check out these gameplays, these gameplay videos, this longer gameplay, and then again the 5-minute ultra hard AI. And check out Jacob D's move list as well. Tons of great content. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything. Subscribe for more. Catch you in the next one. Peace.